back in the C days, we would use fopen from the standard IO library, and we would open a file and we do some file operations. It is very operating system centric. At the end, you'd have to remember to do fclose, as the file would automatically stay open. If you didn't do anything, it would stay open forever or until the thread ended. So one of the libraries we can look at is input file stream, and you can open a file, say example.txt, and then you could read from it. In C++, it's just a simple instantiation. You'd have the class name, and then you would name your object, and in this case, file. There are some error outputs that you can do that if the file is, let's say, non-instantiated or null. I won't go into that too deeply. You can look them up yourself. And again, at the end, you can do a file close method. However, it's not really needed. Once you go out of scope, it's automatic. It'll close itself out. So what should you do? What should you use? Should you use the C method, where you just open the files using operating system calls with read and write? Or should I use a class? Well, I would say if you're in a resource constrained environment and you don't have C++ and you're doing everything in C, then obviously you're going to use read and write and all the normal operating system type calls that you're used to, and that's perfectly fine. But nowadays, with everything being C++ and with 32-bit microcontrollers, you're not bound by that anymore. So why not use something more sophisticated, more reliable, and less prone to errors? And the same with write. Low-level write we could do with an operating system call. Now, C++ gives you ofstream, and the only difference is you use the arrow operators, which I will show you when we do the code example what those actually mean. And it's better for your resource management. I would say, in terms of buffer control, when you're using ofstream or ifstream, you have a circular buffer under the hood that's managed by the operating system. It's actually quite efficient and large enough to handle pretty much anything you want to do. You can think of it as an infinite buffer, so that's why they call it a stream. So when you're going to an output stream, for example, you're just pushing data into it. It's taking care of everything for you. C++ library is instantiating in such a way and doing the proper operating system calls that you don't have to worry about it. Now, yes, you can make the same argument for the C methods. I think, and from my experience, the C++ way is much more advanced and much more reliable, and you get more information if something does go wrong using exceptions. And that works for both read and write when you're using the C++ classes. It's streaming and it's buffered, and your performance is very, very good. There's really no need to do low-level C calls anymore. Let's take a look at all the key differences. In terms of file handling, in C, you're going to use the file pointer and fopen. In C++, the fstream class, which is ifstream and ofstream under the hood, is a library. It's a class. You instantiate it. So you can instantiate multiple files pointing to different places without having to manage all that manually. Error checking, okay, fopen returns a null. Now, with C++, you get a file object and you just check if it's valid or not. It's much simpler. Closing a file in C requires fclose, and in C++, it's automatically closed when the object goes out of scope. Or if you're not going to go out of scope, you can close it manually. Let's say if you want to open another file in the same object. Now, exception safety-wise, C is a manual resource management thing, and maybe for small projects, it's not an issue. C++, it's an automatic cleanup, and there's much less chance of having any types of memory leaks. In terms, this is typical between C and C++, the readability. In C, it's going to be lower level, procedural, almost like assembly language, right? C++, it's going to be higher level, more object-oriented. Let's look at the differences. Reading versus writing. ifstream is read-only. ofstream is write-only. fstream is bidirectional. So what do I use? Well, you can use fstream for everything if you want to. ifstream is kind of like, it's going to be read-only, and it just makes instantiating a little bit easier. There's less flags to pass in. Same thing with ofstream. It's write-only. It's kind of assumed you're only going to go out with it. With fstream, it can do either or. That's typically what I use because I'll just set it up the way I need it with the proper flags or the proper modes. So those are your typical use cases, and it's up to the user, but just remember there's like 3 methods, and when all else fails, you can just use fstream for everything. Okay, so let me get Eclipse open and set up an example, and let's quickly go through an fstream object, and I'll show you how easy it is. I will be right back. Hey, we're back. So did a little sample program here for you, showing you how to use fstream. So let's start with what I do for read, and it's pretty straightforward. You include the fstream header library, and you instantiate an object. We'll call it file, and in the constructor, you can whatever file name, or it's actually a path that you can put in here. And we put in a constant to say if it's going to be in or out. In this case, it's going to be in, read only. I also did a few strings to do some manipulation. And when we run it, okay, I stopped midway. The get line returns the number of characters it found, and it's actually looking for the line feed. And it works with carriage return line feed also. And then it's going to use this file object, and then it's going to put the text or data that it finds into that string called line. And then what I do is I take the line and I just add it to another string called contents. That way you can go through a file and read line by line and put it all together into one big string. And if we look at the inside of line, the contents, the classic quick fox jumps over the lazy dog. And I'll show you the contents of the file. So first line is the brown fox thing, and the second line is a quote that I threw in here. And as we iterate through this, you'll see, hey, we pulled in the first line and run to the next. And there's the second quote it pulled in. And then after this, it should close out, which it does. And the final contents show total length of 141. And you can kind of see that the entire file is there. So takeaway here is, by using C++ with a minimal amount of code, I mean, we're only looking at 8 lines of code, if that, and you're able to read a file. In fact, you could have multiple files with different names and just treat them like objects. Real simple. And just one thing I wanted to show you real quick. There is a ton of methods that are part of fstream. There are so many things that you can do to navigate through a file. This is the easy one because it's dealing with just a typical text file, which, you know, a lot of people, that's all they need. You know, they want to store some stuff on a text file, like a log, and it's readable text, no worries. But you can go through binary files. That's all in here, and that's a whole long video to cover advanced traversing through a file. But if you go out online, you go to cplus.com or any of the other Stack Overflow, any of those sites, and you'll see plenty of examples. But like anything else, you know, it's good to know the basics before you look at the examples, so it makes sense. You know what to pick. Now for doing a write, it's even shorter. Maybe 5 lines of code. Open the file, we pass in the type of operation that we want to do with it, that we're going to allow, which is out only. Oh, incidentally, if you want to do in or out, you could OR these together. So we see if it's open, and if it's open, we use these arrow operators, which I will show what they do. And then we're just going to put some text into the stream, and it's going to go right to the file. So let's run that. Okay, so we've hit the breakpoint. So I'm going to step through this. And let's see if it made it to our file. All right, so I opened up the file, and there it is. Put the data right in there. Pretty simple. Just keep in mind that you have to open up the file for either an append or a fresh write. This was a fresh write. All right, and the flag that you want to set for that is append. And let's make sure we add that down here as well. Okay. So let's do both and see what happened. So we check if the file is open, as usual. We're going to use the arrow operations to push into the stream, and then at the end we should see these 2 additional lines added to this file. Let's go ahead and add the same method we did for read. We need something to push the lines into. All right, so I set a breakpoint, and we're going to push into the file. And let's see if it appended to it. All right, so let's do the before-after thing. Before, it was this, and now it's this. And by the way, it didn't write until flush occurred. Then it does the seek, and then it resets kind of like the iterator back to the very beginning. And now we're going to go through the whole thing and read the contents, and we should see all of this loaded into memory. First line, second line, third line, fourth line. Done. Everything should be in there. Take a look at contents. 216 characters. Sounds about right. And we can kind of see that it's all in there. It kind of truncates the text, doesn't show all of it, but it's all in there. All right, so that's it for doing an fstream with both in and out and with the append. So just from this little bit of code right here, really just this one line, you can open up a file and be ready to do work on it. It's pretty simple. So a little bit about these arrow operators. They're actually functions. There's no bracket around it like this. You know, it will take it, but it's kind of implied that it's there. So this is what it looks like. We can't see the source code. It's part of a library. It's a binary, but when you do the operator arrow, you can create your own functions. So all they did when they wrote that class is they basically created and the function name is this. So whenever you see these arrows even pushing to the left or pushing to the right, they're just functions. And you can concatenate them together. So it's a strange notation thing. If you're already familiar with this, that's fine, but a lot of people don't know what this means. And they just do it and are like, well, I don't know what it is, but I just do it because it's part of C++. Well, it's not. It's actually a function. You can write your own class, and if you wanted to, add your own operators. So what they did for fstream is they said, oh, we'll use the left arrow operator. There is a single arrow one too, by the way, for comparisons. They do this double arrow thing. It's like, hey, I want to push data into the file. And then they wrote methods in that class that do that. And I just showed you the function declaration for that in the header file. So that'll be another video where I go through making sophisticated classes. We're adding operators. And as usual, a lot of this stuff you can find online. I like to do it here because I like to break it down and make it more digestible for engineers to understand. So with that, that's all I have. I have shown you how to use fstream to create files, to read from files, Obviously, you can use ofstream or ifstream, whatever you want to do. In fact, let me do a quick demo on that. So since this was only an input, what we could have done is ifstream and then just left this out. And so let me run this, and it should be 4 lines again. 2, 3, done. And we look at the contents. Yeah, it's all in there. So you can see, just doing ifstream just means less stuff you have to put at the end. It's kind of implied that it's a it's going to be read only. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. And if you did ofstream, it's the same thing. It would just, the file would just be for output only. So that's all I have for the fstream class. Any comments or questions down below, or any insights that you have into this, please put them down and share them for everybody else. Anyway, thank you, and I will see you on the next one.